go live, and we are live. Good afternoon, everybody, and happy New Year's Eve. Today's a big day. Today is a very, very big day after the last 365 days that have come and gone. And I wanted to make sure that if all else fails, I pop up on camera today for this very special holiday as we all get ready to transition and together collectively wander into a brand new year. And that's all I'm going to say for now. Please do me a solid, and if you are watching, whether it be now, when it's live, or perhaps after the fact, stick around to the end. I'm going to try to keep things in a timely fashion, and I want to give you guys a whole lot of information, a very important update and announcement at the end of this live stream. So if you could hang out with me, I would sincerely appreciate it. In the interim, please consider clicking subscribe, liking this video, and sharing this information out there, however it is that you rather do it, whether it be through social media, sharing it on YouTube, sharing it through text, or even just word of mouth. But with that being said, let's go ahead and rock into this. So, good afternoon. I see a lot of familiar faces in the chat. Super Charas, Ryan Levine, Ethan's Life, good to have you with us. Jacob Peterson, and then One Nation Weather, great to have you in here, brother. It's good to see you again. I know I haven't been very active on here at all. Judy Tokos also joined in the chat. But that's one of the things I want to unveil at the end, and I promise you it's going to be good information at the, back end of this. But for now, we got to talk this immense, and I'm talking, I don't usually use that term, but a hellacious shift in our winter weather pattern to include not only some snowfall, and I'm saying some because I've been looking at the models over the last 3 to 5 days, and they're really not cranking the snow, truthfully. In this case, it's going to be the cold, and this is going to be a cool down unlike we've seen in a few years now. I believe a couple of the analogs that have been turned out was 2022 most recently, but then we're dating all the way back to the 70s and the 80s with some of the earlier iteration of the model data. And then I'm also tracking 2 distinct major weather players that could come alongside the plunge of polar and then followed up by Arctic air out of Canada. And if you notice, we're looking at a totally different area of interest, AOI this time. We're looking at the Eastern and Central Pacific off the North American West Coast. And the reason that is we're already starting to see the pattern taking shape. Because I know there's still a lot of folks out there, and there's a lot of weenies out there who are sharing. I know the biggest one I've had flood my inbox was that 18Z happy hour GFS where it said like 18 degrees in Central Florida. Now that, you can rest assured, is very, very, very unlikely to happen, just like there have been a couple of model iterations out there folks have shared stating that there's snow in Tampa Bay. There will be snow flurries in Orlando. Now, is there a potential for that? Of course, we are looking at freezing to, if not below freezing temperatures as this plunge of air, this new air mass, this very dense air mass comes down. But am I tracking snowfall? No. Are we going to be looking at some hazardous winter conditions? Big time. And I want you all to turn your attention to what's happening to the south of the Aleutian Island chain of Alaska. That's that strip of islands right there. That is the Aleutian Islands. And if you look just to the immediate south, we have what looks to be our semi-permanent Aleutian low spinning down there. And when the Aleutian low is present, especially during the winter time, what that does is it helps to start to prime the environment in the mid-latitudes and in the poles to start drawing in copious amounts of cold air. And if you look, that's kind of what's already starting to happen. We have another little embedded feature right there, a cyclonic spin, and then even more amounts of moisture and upper-level wind flow associated with the polar front jet just screaming west to east across the Pacific, headed right into the Pac Northwest and Northern California, where it looks like any moment now, in fact, probably starting right now, they have another atmospheric river setup beginning to initiate. And what that's going to do is, as we get more and more of that jet and cold energy, I'm going to call it, coming across the Aleutians, coming down through eastern Russia. We're talking way out from our AOR in the United States, and then, of course, our friends down in, the Central Americas, the Caribbean, and so on during the tropic season. That's going to help to build a very, very powerful and dominant ridge over the West Coast. And as that happens, it's kind of similar to what happened during the hurricane season of this year, almost last year, where we had a lot of wave breaking, bringing down dry air, subsidized air, sinking air from up north down into the MDR. And that's what shut down the tropics during much of August and September. It's going to be kind of the same concept. As our ridge builds out west, notice what happens with my pen. Bam. All that energy has to go up and then crash down somewhere, and that's why the eastern half of the United States is going to go bonkers with their surface temperatures. Moving on along, this is going to be the infrared. This is a familiar sight for a lot of us if you've tuned in on my channel a number of different times. You can see we had one storm system that went absolutely insane. It is now up there near James Hudson Bay in Quebec. That comma feature right there is what brought us what I consider. I know there was, I think, one bout of severe weather that occurred about a month or so ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I can't recall if that was a bona fide outbreak of the magnitude that we just went through in the last 2 to 4 days, where we had a number of tornado reports. Last I checked was 38. That was 2 days ago. We had upwards of 200 severe wind reports with damage, and then about maybe a dozen to 2 dozen large hail reports. This wasn't a hail event. This was definitely a wind and tornado event. Then we have another system up there in the Midwest, the Great Lakes right there, a night and day difference. This one brought the severe weather and storms, not as much of a chill. This one's bringing more of the cold air down now, a lot less of the rain, a lot less of the snowfall, and definitely no threat for severe weather whatsoever. And then across the rest of our neighborhood, if you look, obviously the tropics are dead. There was a period of time where for some reason Jonathan and I over at News 6 were kind of getting annoyed because for some reason there were still sources out there mentioning Tony. And this is exactly what happened last year for my longtime viewers with Vince. For some reason, we were just obsessed with making Vince happen. And this hurricane season, it was Tony. We couldn't get Tony Soprano to form up out there in the tropics. Sarah was the last storm that crashed and burned over Belize, the Yucatan, and Central America, and that wrapped up our hurricane season. And it's been done. It's been over for a while now. There's really not much out there right now, and you can see that there's lots of dry air over the Bahamas, the Greater Antilles. Puerto Rico, my friends and family down there, they're actually battling an island-wide blackout right now, which is devastating on New Year's Eve. I reached out to a couple of my relatives and a very close friend of mine. She works in meteorology, as a matter of fact. She's down there right now, and they were telling me that, yeah, the whole island is in the dark. So, Kevin, I know you're probably not going to be tuning in today. Kevin Rivera, a longtime viewer of ours, he's down there in Puerto Rico. He's probably not going to have the capabilities of joining us this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. So thoughts down for them. I'm still waiting on information to hopefully decipher what's happening, why it is that they've gone dark. But when I say a whole island-wide blackout, that is as real as it gets, which is kind of sad. It's very disappointing to hear that happening on New Year's Eve. So there's your overall look at the pattern from west to east. We started in the Pacific. Here's the Atlantic. Not much to talk about. A couple of showers and storms down there near Honduras, Costa Rica, Panama, trying to slowly spill their way into Nicaragua, but nothing of major concern. Nothing too crazy out there, because then we have to move over to this. This is when things start to get a little crazy, and I've never pulled this up before. This was not the overlay I was looking for, but I'm glad that there's a color coding for you all to see, because it really highlights how potentially just dangerous this could be. And obviously, I don't mean dangerous in the sense of this is going to take out a whole bunch of different things. That's not what I mean, but at the end of the day, you know, we have, forgive me for sounding callous here, and this is going to be a little uncensored, but we have stray animals. We have the homeless out there. We obviously have water systems. We have different agricultural farmlands, crops across the plains, Dixie Alley. Down here in Florida, we're worried about our wildlife and our orange groves. I was out in downtown Orlando last night at Lake Eola between shows at News 6, and there's just a long conga line of homeless folks who just are chilling under the interstate freeways, the bridges. And I think about stuff like this, and it's like, gosh, you know, we're going to be okay in our houses. If you have to travel in this, that's rough all the same. I hope your heater's working in your car. I hope you can crank the heat at home, or if you got a fireplace or a fire pit, heck yeah, power to you. But there's going to be a lot of folks, animals and humans alike, and even the insects, reptiles, amphibians, who are going to get plastered by this because of how cold it's going to get. And what we have here is our Climate Prediction Center probabilities of hazardous winter weather. And you can see the closer you get to the mid-Atlantic, the southeast, the Ohio, Mississippi valleys, that's where your greatest risk of seeing these catastrophic freezing temperatures just go nuts. I've never really seen this before, truthfully, and I've only been looking at CPC's product for about 2 years now, but I've never seen such a dome of below-average anomalies here. This is valid from January 17th through to the 13th, which is when our large polar vortex is set to establish itself up over eastern Canada and the Great Lakes, and it's just going to continue to pump cold air and extra moisture down across the United States. I wanted to do this live stream a little earlier. I wanted to go for 12:15, but I figured, okay, let's go ahead and let's give the model some time to rock in. And just to give you some perspective, I'm leaving it right where it is, and I hope you all can see the date and time. This is 200 plus hours out, so please don't flame me in the comments or get mad because we're going so long range. That's why I wanted to start out with the water vapor satellite to show you that the pieces are indeed already moving. So it's not like we're going to go from these temperatures and this pattern setup to suddenly, oh, wait, it's hot again. No, that's not going to happen. We are very confident that the big chill is coming. It's the finite details of individual specific temperatures. Is it going to be 20? Is it going to be 25? That's what we're still working to dial in. And then I'll show you, again, the two big storm systems that I really haven't seen anyone talking about. Everyone's been talking snow, which is typical this time of year, and everyone's been talking freezing temps. But in my opinion, the two big storm systems that could help to really tug this down are what I believe deserve the attention. But first, this is Saturday, January 11th, and if you look, there's such a huge gradient out there across the U.S. We're at minus 30 in the Dakotas, minus 15 in eastern Montana, 3 degrees along the front range of Wyoming and Colorado, and we're down in the mid to low 20s through the southeast. One Nation Weather, if you're still in the chat, you're looking at temperatures in the teens, and let's not forget, if you're in the higher terrain area of the Appalachian region, you're going down to 0. And that's the thing. This is Fahrenheit. Remember, freezing is 32. So when you are at 0 Fahrenheit, you are definitely deep into the negatives in terms of Celsius at that point. And I'll rewind the clock here a second so you can see what exactly is going to take shape. This is as we get into New Year's Day. You can see that first system bringing the cold air down. And I'll kind of break it down in the simplest of forms here. As the pattern starts to shift from the Pacific into northern North America, particularly Canada, and the upper tier United States, these individual weak storm systems are what's going to help to just slowly but surely draw it down. First, but system after system after system is what's going to agitate the jet. It's going to shift where that cold pool really is located, and eventually it's going to have to go somewhere. And as you can see, here comes the first one, and then the second one. See how every time we go forward day by day, that pool just slowly comes further and further down, further and further down. Somebody in the chat saying that they can't hear me. I still have audio. At least my audio is going through. I'm not too sure what's happening. It says my audio is going through. Okay, yeah, there we go. Perfect. That was weird. Everything was good on my end. I'm not too sure what happened there. But as these things give that cold dome a little nudge further to the south, now notice how much of the cold air is already present. And then we fast forward into the first full week of January, and here we go. The next big system comes down and just yanks it. There it is. Down across the eastern half of the United States. And, you know, the GFS has actually backed off pretty substantially. If you look down in Central Florida, for example, and I'll shift the AOI, from about the 8th, we stay fairly mild, truthfully, down here in Central Florida. The low temps for the 8th look to be around the low 40s. The low temps for the 9th, we're looking at the maybe upper 30s, low 40s. So this is why I don't want us to fixate too heavily on the numbers specifically. The numbers are going to lead us astray because we are so far out. It's the large-scale pattern that we're dialing in right now. The European model is thinking very much of the same. You can see right around that same general time frame, we have the sub-zero temperatures just racing across the United States, and they hang out there for quite a considerable amount of time. We don't rebound for much of the first half of January. If you look, this is now January 15th, and the Euro is still thinking we're going to be anywhere from the single digits into the 40s, all the way down towards Central Florida. And mind you, this is 0Z on the 15th. We are at the very tail end of the run, but the key takeaway here is not the time, not the specific digits, but the fact that we are at the warmest part of the day, and we're still in the 40s and 50s. So it goes to show what type of an air mass we're going to have embedded through the Great Plains all the way to the east coast of the United States. Can anyone in the chat let me know if you can still hear me? Because I keep saying, we're back, it's Jover, we're back, it's Jover. I can still see my audio input is A-OK, and everything is good on YouTube, so I'm not too sure what's happening. I'd hate to think that this microphone is going kaput. I've only had it for about a year, if not a little over a year, since we were doing the season in 23. So that's neither here nor there. What I want to talk about now here is, before we go any further, okay, good. And then April Claremont, starting tomorrow, I'll be in Chicago for at least 2 weeks due to a family emergency. I'm sorry to hear that first and foremost. I hope that makes strides in the positive direction. I know temps will be cold, but I'm worried about the wind chill. Yes, in this case, and I don't usually say that for winter weather, but I would argue, and I'll go ahead and shift gears, and we'll go up there just for a little while now. Let me see do we have a wind chill on here? I don't think we do. That's going to be something I'd have to pull up on my Barron system. But for example, I mean, if you look here, we can kind of do a bit of the mathematics behind calculating wind chill. But if you look at the numbers here, this is only 100 some odd hours out, so this will more than likely be what takes place as we get through the first several days of January. And if you're going to be in the Chicago area of Illinois, you're going to be in the upper teens, if not very low 20s. And what is definitely intense about this is the fact that if you switch over to the winds, we have lots of wind coming down with this as well. I mean, look at that. Anywhere between 20 to 25 knots, which doesn't sound like much. Obviously, when we're talking hurricanes and whatnot, you hear 60, 70, 80 knots. But when it comes to chilling the air via the winds, all it takes is 10, 15 knots, and you're going to have what feels like knives stabbing through you. One Nation Weather just plugged me in. He said Pivotal Weather has a wind chill overlay. Let me go ahead and pull that up really quick. Let's see. I'm going to try to blast through this as fast as I can, so this way we can get back to the rest of the discussion. Let me go to Continental. No, I don't want North America. I want us to zoom down in. National, United States. Let's see. Aha, there it is. Wind chill. Perfect. Thank you for the plug, ONW. I appreciate it. This is going to help a lot. So let's fast forward. Oh, gosh. Yeah, look at the wind chills. It'll feel like well below zero up there in the western Midwest, the northern Great Plains, the Great Lakes. This is on the 4th at 6Z. So, yes, this is overnight. We can go to the warmest part of the day, 18 Zulu, 21Z. And, yeah, down in Chicago, you're looking at a feels-like temperature of anywhere between 6 to 16 degrees. And then all the way down to the south, this is as that preliminary first system charges through and brings the cold air down. We'll go ahead and fast forward once again. And if you look, those feels-like temperatures are only going to get worse. Good Lord, wow. Minus 45 in North Dakota. That is as Arctic as you can get. Feel like temperatures. I see a couple folks talking Texas DFW. Feels like temperatures as we get through the first 7 days of January. You're also going to be feeling the teens. April out there in Chicago, it'll feel like 3 degrees as you're starting the day potentially on Wednesday, January 8th. Negative temperatures trying to sneak in with that next storm system coming through. So on average, I would say from Central Florida all the way up to Montana, the Dakotas, Wyoming, the Rockies, wherever it is, as that big old dome of just shallow Arctic air comes down, coupled with how dense it is, elevating our surface winds, Yeah, we could be anywhere between the low teens to the negatives, easy negatives. This stuff will hurt. It will be painful. And this is where you really need to layer it on. Tank top, t-shirt, second t-shirt, long sleeve, windbreaker, coat, bundle, bundle, bundle up. This is where the layers are going to count. Don't just, throw a layer or two on and count on your scarves, gloves, and mittens and all that. You want to layer up as much as possible, because what wind chill is, in layman's terms, is just the wind blowing your radiating heat away from your body. Because as we all know, our bodies are technically, just like I like to compare hurricanes, we're like internal combustion motors on a car. Our internal temperature is 98.6, and as a result, the skin temperature, the heat irradiates through the dermis of our skin, or the dermis layer of our bodies. When the wind hits, and the reason why it freezes up so much, or it makes it feel so cold, is because as the heat tries to irradiate through our skin and out of our bodies to keep us warm, the wind chill blows that away. So it has no capability. It's kind of like for folks who are a little car savvy, you know how with radiators, they're at the front of the car, front of the front bumper? Because what happens is you have hot liquid from the radiator coolant and the motor flowing through there. And what happens is, as the air, while you're driving, hits the cooling fans or the cooling fins, it helps to break down that heat. Because if there was no air flowing through that radiator or the intercooler or whatever you want to talk about, put on the table, it would heat, your car would overheat, and the coolant would be boiling and your thing's going to explode. So that's the same concept. When the wind hits our bodies, it's kind of like we're radiators cooling off on a drive through the mountains or whatever, And that's why the wind chill, I would say, is a little bit more important to focus on when talking winter weather, because that's what's going to feel like when you go outside. I'll circle back and answer some questions, because real fast, I want to go down to the south and talk storm systems, because now we are kind of getting a little over. It's already 12:52. I didn't want to take up too much time today, because I also have to get some sleep. I'm pulling an all-nighter tonight, because I'm going to be going out celebrating the new year with friends, family, and then I got to work the morning show at News 6 tomorrow. So I got to be in by like 2, 3 in the morning. I'm just going to stay up. But anyways, this January 4th, you can already see this storm system that's working its way through right now. See how it's already beginning to tug that air down? Very strong pressure gradient. All these black lines very, very, very tightly packed together from Hudson Bay all the way down to the Front Range of the Rockies in Colorado and New Mexico. You can see all that cold air seepage. That is all cold air right through there where I'm shading in with my pen. That's going to be the transition between polar air, and then your Arctic air is going to start coming down. The Arctic air is right here, the 510 line. That is your bona fide Arctic air. Your 528 line, give or take, is where your polar air, your traditional polar air. And these are just my rules of thumb through synoptic meteorology, drawing the charts, analyzing the jet stream. Those are just my little rules of thumb. Most of the time, obviously, weather doesn't behave in black and white. So you're going to have polar air to the south, polar air to the north, Arctic air maybe more so to the south, etc. But the rules of thumb we were taught is looking at your thickness line. Anywhere between the 528 line to about the 522 line is typically where your delineation between the polar air really transitions in, and then your 510 line, give or take. Sometimes some will say the 516 line, you're splitting hairs again. That's where your Arctic air begins. And then watch what happens here as we go through the 6th and the 7th. There it is. There's the first big storm system. And the reason I bring this up is that's massive. And what I'm really honing in on is this freezing rain icing threat right there, which is very realistic in this case. Normally, I'm not a big fan of kind of looking in at this kind of stuff, especially this far out. We're only 140 hours away, so that's well within the range of realism. It's not like we're in La La Land, but could this still adjust and change north-south overall swath impacts? Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. If you look, this system over Dixie Alley is going to strengthen up enough to where not only could we get some really enhanced weather along the leading edge of it in through here, like we saw last year, like we just saw with that last storm system, but what this is going to do is force all that cold air that's up to the north down south. Look at that. You can see where the high pressure is right there. The leading edge of that high pressure is already getting through Mexico, headed towards the Bay of Campeche and the Yucatan Peninsula. That's how far south it already is. And you go even further in time as it keeps cranking through, and look at how cold everything gets. Here's your snow line right there. Here's your 528 line. So your polar air is all the way down into the southern plains, the Ohio, Mississippi valleys. It's through the Midwest, into the mid-Atlantic. And then here's your Arctic air. Your Arctic air is really coming down. It's just a giant dome that's going to be coming down out of Alberta. Not Alberta. That's Saskatchewan, Ontario, James and Hudson Bay through the Great Lakes. And then look at down here in the western Gulf of Mexico. That's also what I'm picking up on. You go just a little further in time and bam, look at that thing. There's one that has kind of backed off, and then here comes another one. Some really intense cyclogenesis down there, and that has been on the model runs for the last couple of days. If I go back just a little bit, like I said, that iteration of the GFS kind of backed off, but then here it is again for your 6Z. Here it is at the 0Z. Here it is at the 18Z yesterday. Here we go at the 12Z from yesterday. You can see generally the same key takeaway, that there could be another frontal wave that forms up in the Gulf of Mexico. The Canadian model, now that we are all the way out close enough in time to see it, the Canadian model is also thinking the same thing, albeit this run, again, has backed off just a little bit. And this is going to happen. If you look at 0Z of the Canadian model, it's down there. And I'm using the Canadian because now that the Euro can go so far out, 360 hours, we need something that could give us that middle range happy medium. If I do switch over to the European model at 6Z, there goes that first storm system, possible severe weather rocking through the south. There's your icing, freezing rain, and snow threat. And then if I go back to 0Z and we go just a little further in time, the European model is also thinking another frontal wave is going to form down there in the Gulf of Mexico and just come rocking through, force-feeding even more of that cold air down to the south. Depending on if these systems take shape, absolutely, there is a snow risk for Texas, the central plains of Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri. A lot of it is going to be heavily hinged upon where this thing sets up, if it sets up strong enough, and if we can get enough moisture left over from the previous system and return flow over the Gulf of Mexico to fuel that snow potential. That's going to be the kicker here. So I don't want to talk snow totals. Is there a chance that there could be snow? Absolutely. If we get something like a Texas low to form that far south because of the orientation of the jet, look at your jet stream. Bam, that thing is way down to the south. Way down to the south, and we have a positively tilted trough, so that cold air is not going to rapidly exit. So, yeah, is there the potential for us to get some snow down into the southern plains, the upper Gulf Coast states? Yeah, I would say so. We're going to have to continue to monitor because if you look, we're at 200 plus hours out. We know how the models do with snowfall, so I'm not going to get anyone's hopes up, but you can see out of the Rockies with that next storm system, both the Euro and the GFS are in line that there is that potential for some snow flurries. The accumulation isn't that amazing, though. I'll tell you the truth right now. I have the NOAA blend pulled up right here for all the way through these events. And if you look at the NOAA blend, I mean, yeah, there is some, but we're looking at maybe an inch or two, give or take. So, I mean, could it snow? Yeah, it's on the NOAA blend, and this is their experimental feature with a ton of different ensembles built into it with your most likely outcome while we get these blasts of cold air to come through. So it's showing the potential for snow. Nothing down here in Florida. So if you're still following the 18Z GFS and all that fun jazz from a couple days ago, all the clickbait out there, you're going to be very, very heartbroken for sure. Here's a look at the ensembles, because obviously this far out, ensembles are going to be your best friend. And both the GFS, there you go, there's the 4th of January. You go forward in time, you get another big blast of cold air right there by the 8th to the 9th, all the way down through the Gulf of Mexico, which is good news. That's very good news, and I don't want to completely just change the script here and talk tropics, but this will help to kind of bring down all that ocean heat content and those surface temps that are still technically above average. We have cooled off quite a bit since the end of the hurricane season, but they are still above average if I were to show you the water anomalies. We can come back here to the Euro 850 temp anomaly, same exact thing. And there's that first storm system as well. I'm looking right here, that big gradient there. You can trace your cold front, and then there's your warm front. Warm, moist air to the north, nice, solid punch, a heavy-hitting punch of cold air from the north. And that's why I'm concerned that as we go through the first week of January into the second, we might not only see a hellacious onslaught of freezing and below freezing temperatures with even more extreme wind chills, but this could be another severe weather event in the making. So I'm tracking all kinds of things, and that's another reason why I wanted to go ahead and get on here, because there's a plethora of different threats and variables that need to be investigated, and you all who've been watching me for a while know dang well I'm not going to be in here just hyping, oh snap, it's cold, so that's about it, though. Honestly, I mean, I know that's about, I say it so nonchalantly, that's about it. It could be minus 40 up in the Dakotas, minus 10 in Chicago for April, and then severe weather, but that's about all we got, folks. So yeah, there's your 12Z GFS showing system after system developing along the nose of that frontal band, as well as where your jet energy is located. Pretty decent shot at least some snow flurries, nothing that'll inundate you with winter, with a ton of snowfall. We're not looking at feet of snow, historic, rare, or whatever they want to put on the table, but yeah, it does seem like snow is definitely on the table, and we're going to really start to dial in all these totals, timing, amounts, variables as we get past tonight into the first couple days of January. I think by this weekend, by Friday, Saturday, we'll know enough to start making really good judgment calls for our folks up there, especially to the north, as we get into the first full week of January, because I think game time right now for the big stuff is going to be anywhere between the 7th to the 10th and then on from there. We're looking at preliminary stuff between where we are right this second talking up until January 5th, January 6th. We're going to get a couple more of those Clipper systems, a couple of more of those weak Colorado low-pressure systems to eject out of the Rockies and help really set up our jet stream and place the cold air in precarious positions to then be tugged further south across the United States. So with that being said, if you've been here since the beginning, I said hang out with me until the very end, because I want to give you a very important announcement, and I'll go ahead and zoom in just a little bit, because, I have been a bad noodle for the last 3 or 4 months. Since about September time frame, I have not been on this channel. I have not been dedicating my time. I have not been committed to this channel, our channel, and I've been very absent because of my new position with News 6. And one of the biggest announcements I wanted to make to everybody, and please rock with me. I see we have over 100 people watching right now. That's more than I would have imagined. I thought we were going to be at like 30, 40 people. So thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for tuning in, especially on New Year's Eve. Go ahead and nudge that like button while you're at it as well, and I'll get us through this, I promise. But I just want to very wholeheartedly, I'm trying not to get emotional right now. I want to very wholeheartedly thank every single person out there, even if you haven't tuned in since the Hurricane Beryl updates, even if you haven't tuned in since last hurricane season. I want to extend the utmost gratitude to every single viewer. You guys most definitely included, for sticking with me despite my absences, for understanding the situation. I'm trying so hard right now. I attribute what I'm doing, the fact that I landed my dream position since I was 4 or 5 years old, I attribute the fact that I'm there now doing the thing to you guys and our community. I really do. And today I'm losing it. Today I wanted to reflect on that. And I wanted to make sure you all knew how much this channel means to me. Because they told me, from our studio director to our chief meteorologist, they told me it was these videos, it was our presence, not mine, it was our community that really stood out to them, and why they entrusted me with the position of their newest digital and broadcast meteorologist. And I was not going to let another day, let alone the last day of 2024, go by without letting you all know that this channel means so much to me. You guys mean a lot to me, and that's why I work so hard to get these updates out. And I do want to apologize for being so absent and so latent, focused on that and not so focused on where we started. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, because without us, without this community, I would not be where I aspired to be over 25 years ago. This was 25 years in the making, and it's because of this that I can finally say, without it being sarcastic for my military friends out there, without a shadow of a doubt, I'm living the dream. Getting up there and I'm on TV. We did it. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and, cheer up. With that being said, I've made it a resolution that going forward, no matter how busy I am, no matter how burnt out I am, no matter how tired I am, we are going to get back to business. We are going to get back to business, and I don't care how much effort on my end to schedule it, build it, edit it, share it, subscribe, whatever. I want to get back to this channel, and I wanted it to be New Year's Eve as we rock into a beautiful new year, and we're coming back again soon. Don't forget, it's the 31st, which means we're getting another round of Climo data on tomorrow and then through the next couple of days. So we're going to be right back here on the Weather Center to do our favorite thing and look ahead to what this spring, summer, and hurricane season could possibly look like. There's already a lot of different things I'm honing in on, and I'm really, really anxious to share that all with you guys. So moving forward, I've already made it a hardcore or grounded in cement resolution that we are going to get back to work on this channel, even if it means I'm only doing 1 or 2 things per week. 1, 2, maybe 3 things per week for you guys to keep this channel alive, keep our community together and strong. I'm even going to try doing different things as well. I set up in our studio to do social media videos. What I'm thinking of doing is taking the camera that I'm filming with right now and using one of my lapel mics and simply shooting longer form videos at our weather wall, at our digital weather center, and editing them down to then upload here and everywhere else. This way there's still that consistent push of content. This way there's no excuses. No excuses. Oh, I'm not home. I'm traveling. I'm on the road. I'm busy. No, there's no excuses because I want to give back to this channel. You guys helped get me into what I've aspired to do since I was a baby, what God put me on this planet to do, and there is no reason for me to piss away that opportunity which you all helped build. So that's the important announcement. Thank you, everybody who stuck around for that. And I don't like to get emotional on camera, but it comes from a very heartfelt place when I say thank you. Thank you. I think about you guys every single day. I flash back to when we were in a totally different room talking, this looks like Hurricane so-and-so in 2023 to my first storm chase in December of 23 out in Venice Beach and all that, to the tornado event in the Panhandle this past January. I think back on all of that stuff. I will never forget this channel. I'll never forget all of you guys. Never. And that's why for 2025, especially with how weird it is already within the first couple days, I'm going to be rocking with you guys again, and we're going to be working hard to just grind out together. 2025 is going to be the year where we're all hustling and grinding and in the trenches together. So with that being said, everybody in the chat, thank you extremely so much for all the amazing comments. Randall, we love you, Naz. Mick and Marley, great to see you in the chat. April Claremont, we appreciate you. Young Alchemy, no problem, bro. Congrats. Weatherman, you are the best. Pat's Path Predictor, welcome in. We have 2 other YouTube creators in the chat. That's fantastic. I love the collaboration. We all need to figure out a way to somehow come together in a video and have our voices and our faces shared and all that. I think that's something we should also start to plan out as we go through time. Thanks for being so supportive of me as well, just boosting my morale and journey this year. That is true. One Nation Weather. We've been talking since winter last year. That is true. Got to take inventory. Pat's Path Predictor, same thing. I've also known you for over a year now, bud. So it's great to have everybody in here. Spider Gwench, Matt Hennigan, you are not a fake weatherman on YouTube. You are the I am. I am. Spicy Coffee Bean for Florida. We're looking at freezing temperatures, that's for sure, with a wind chill of anywhere between 20 to 30 degrees when that first big onslaught of very cold air comes through. Mick and Marley, I love that statement. I always will. In Naz, we all trust. And we'll always have Vince. Vince is still floating out there somewhere in the nether. Definitely coming out somewhere in the nether. Don Martinez, we all appreciate you and have a happy new year. You do a great job and continue doing what you do. Elite Chief Stark, somebody else who's been around since day one. Never doubted you, learned a lot from you, and this is just the beginning of amazing accomplishment. It really is. At the end of the day, we're still just scratching the surface of where we're going, and I can't wait. And that's why I'm going to put pedal to the metal and get back to work with you guys. I'm going to talk to the family, talk to work, just make sure everything is in line to give back to this channel again. I refuse to let it go away. I refuse to let it just garner the spider webs. But alrighty, guys, we're going to let you go. It's 1:10. I need to go make sure I have everything slated and ready to rock for later. We're going to be all going out and doing some stuff, and I need to get some rest. But I hope every single one of you have a fantastic, no less than fantastic, amazing, and blessed New Year's Eve. Even if you're just staying home, counting down, nice little glass of something with, cozy vibes, or if you're going out on the town enjoying the mild weather for much of us, have fun, live it up. And I'll echo the same thing I said on Instagram. If you didn't make a goal, if you didn't make a milestone or achieve a resolution, if you only got halfway, 3/4 of the way, a quarter of the way, or if you didn't even get started, you still have today to take a step in that direction towards conquering that goal and getting that much closer to your accomplishment. And things are not going to reset once you turn your calendar to January 2025. It is a new day, regardless of the date, time, whatever, and you still have time, as long as you're waking up in the morning, to get after whatever it is you aspire to do today, tomorrow, a year, 2 years, 10 years from now. So have fun, stay safe, and I will talk to you all again very soon, and that is this time a promise, because we got climate and tropics to talk about here within the next couple days. So be on the lookout for that notification. Please consider clicking subscribe, hitting that like button, and sharing this information. Drop me a comment down below if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, and it's going to feel so good to say this. But until next time, this is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.